Good morning. Sorry, just give me a second this morning because mornings are in it around here. Hmm. Sorry, I'm Stacy. I'm with Loving My Veteran. I'll have to excuse the way I look this morning. It's kind of one of the mornings. We are doing walking in my shoes this morning. Um, I don't realize how bad it looks until I'm sitting in front of the thing. We're going to talk about this whole week is on about communication and how good communication can help and bad communication can hurt our relationship. So, um, sorry, before we get started, there's a few things we need to talk about in relationships, like simply why do they fail? Why do our relationships fail? Um, there's a whole bunch of studies that kind of talk about it, and one of them is lack of intimacy, um, not just sex, but total intimacy, that touch, that physical touch. Affairs, either emotional or physical. Sometimes we get hooked up on the fact that we're talking to somebody, and they become our sounding board. So it becomes more of an emotional thing at that point. Of course, there's always the physical affair. Growing apart, it's a huge issue, and we find that in our lives a lot. We make concessions and we kind of grow apart. Lack of boundaries. I hear it all the time. We have such a huge lack of boundaries. You have to have them. You have to clarify what those boundaries are because they're going to be important to you going on. Not speaking up. Um, for those of us on the spouse and partner and family member side, it's hard to speak up because we're afraid we're going to set off a trigger. But all that keeping it in does is make it worse and get you to become irritated and frustrated, and then resentment builds. So you have to be able to speak up, and even lack of duties. I know that they're coming off of some of these groups and reading and talking to spouses in particular that they feel like they're doing everything. I know this weekend for me and Carl, it was the backwards. I had been such in my past the person who did everything for everybody, and he was just really uptight with me because I didn't let him do things. He's like, you're taking away the little things from me. I didn't feel good, and he wanted to do the dishes, I think, and I kind of took that away from him when I stood there and did them. So there are lack of, the uneven distribution. It comes both sides. Just as when we talk about boundaries, and we're going to really get into that in communication, that you can't just inundate them with 500 boundaries. You have to kind of do them one at a time, or you just totally overwhelm them. And us not staying connected. Um, I use that line, why did you fall in love with him in the first place? There was a reason. There's a reason we're here. There's a reason we fell in love with them. So why we lose that in our connection? You have to stay connected. You have to have the same things that got to you before are still there. Losing yourself, that is huge. Um, and this just didn't have to do with my veteran. This was actually I think part of what ended a 28-year marriage to my ex-husband was I lost myself. I grew up in a small town, so my parents and I graduated from the same high school. My grandparents lived there, so I was always Linda and Lucas's daughter, even Big Lucas's granddaughter, Trey's sister. Then I became David's wife and David and Seth's mother, and then Woody's wife, and then the Navy wife, and then the paramedic. And all this time I was taking care of everybody else. And so I never kind of really knew who I was. So you can't lose yourself. Debt is obviously just one of those things that causes relationship issues. Keeping secrets. Um, whether they're real or perceived, when you plant those little seeds, they become a really, really big issue. So we have to look at those. Um, Different plans. I may have a path in my life, and they may have a path, or he may have a path in his life, and we just kind of assume that the other one's on board. But if we don't have the same path and the same goals, then it will really create an issue in a relationship. Addiction and abuse, and again, that's one of the issues that we have with veterans, especially with PTSD veterans, is there's a lot of complaints about addiction, self-medicating, that they become abusive. um, and again, that happens in the real world. First husband was very abusive and very addicted, and he was not. So lack of respect. Um, there are truly times that we feel that we are not respected, and that they feel that they're not respected. So you have to learn to respect each other. It's really important. Unrealistic expectations. Um, Go back again. Y'all gonna know more about my family history and my life than probably I do by the time this whole series is over. But my grandfather lost his leg when my daddy was really little. And as we talked to my poppy, I mean, to us, he did everything. And one day we said, "Hey, what is something you wish you could do?" And he said, "I really wish I could run and jump." Well, with one leg and crutches, he could never run and jump. So you couldn't expect Poppy to run a marathon. It wasn't going to happen. So unrealistic expectations. He couldn't run a marathon. He physically didn't have two legs and no prosthesis because of the way they did the amputation. So it just couldn't happen for him. So you can't have unrealistic expectations. And outside interference from family and friends. I know that a lot of times when we vent to people, family, friends, doesn't really matter. They'll say, "I can't believe you're still in that relationship. You need to leave." Well, when we're venting about a specific situation here, then we're venting, and we just want to vent. We just want to kind of get it out. And when we're doing this, your family and your friends become, "They're so awful. You need to get out." Because one, they don't understand. But that happens in real relationships too. I mean, the problem is a lot of times people will vent about their situation because they're venting, and then they get back together, and then they can't understand why the family's mad that they're back together, and why they don't like them, and why there's issues. So you have to be careful, because outside influences can really play a huge role in relationships failing. So, how many of those sound familiar? you know, People have raised their hand, me, all of these. Can I just check the little boxes here? Um, and are there times that you feel like your relationship is doomed because now you just realize this checklist, you have everything on this checklist, and you're like, "Oh, it's never going to work." And if I'm going to make it work, where do I start? Because you just gave me 10, 12 things, and we have all of them. So where do we start? Do you feel like you're drowning? Um, now you become questionable, and people will ask you this, "Well, can I make this work? What if they won't get help?" And the biggest thing is, in any relationship that fails, if you're going to make it work, somebody has to make a change. It's the way it works. But the biggest thing becomes, why should I be the one to make the change? Um, I have given up this. I have done this for them. I have done that for them. I'm the one who deals with this. I'm the one who deals with that. And you want me to do what? If the relationship is worth it, change. It's not. And you'll see that everything in this world, for every action, there's a reaction. So for every single action we have, there's a reaction. If we have a negative action, we'll get a negative reaction. If they are emitting a negative action and we feed into it, it becomes a more negative reaction, right? But if they're having a negative action and we respond to it totally off guard, and we don't get into it negatively, then we've tipped the balance. And even little steps will tip the balance. Um, I need you to understand that a relationship, and I'm actually reading this because I thought this line was so impressive. A relationship is the relentless decision to keep choosing each other every day, despite your differences and life's difficulties. You have to choose him or her. You have to choose that. It has to be a decision that you do every single day. Does Carl make me mad? Absolutely. Do I make him mad? Probably way more than he makes me mad. But every day, all the time, we choose to be together. We choose to make it work. We choose each other. And that's a big deal. You have to choose. I don't have to choose to like him at that minute. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of times he doesn't like me at any one given minute, but he chooses to love me. And that's where it is. Um, love is an action. It's not choice. It's not just a thing. It's an action. Love moves. It is an action. You show that love. So what happens when neither one of you is going to make a change? What happens when you're like, I'm not doing anything else? And trust me, I've said that a lot too. So I'm not preaching to anybody. I'm just talking from life experiences. That's the only way I can do it because I live the real world. And I'm like, mm, why should I be doing it? And he'll tell you that I get this strut about me. I'm like, why should I be doing this? And my little heads are bobbling like the chickens we got out the pen. Why should I do this? Hmm. Do I want this lack of doing the same thing over and over and over again is going to give you the exact same results. So if I'm doing the same thing and I'm pushing his buttons time after time after time after time after time, I'm going to get the same results. That's the way it works. So if I don't want the same results and I don't like the same results, then one of us has to make the change. And since I'm the one who isn't liking the results right now, maybe I should be the one to make the little change. And what you're going to find is when you make that change, you're going to be like, ooh, I kind of like this. We're not fighting today. The difference is this. So keep things the way they are. Make a change. It don't matter. It's up to you. You don't want things the way they are, then make the change. So how do you fix all this? I'm going to tell you right now. Cannot all be done at one time. It is an evolution. You cannot go in and make one change and expect everything to be better. Cannot go in and make one change one time and expect it to be better because it's got to be consistent. I know for us, and I've shared this before, Carl hates it when I yell. It sets him off. But as we get into our moments, like every other couple, please remember, every other couple argues. PTSD, no PTSD, they argue. Okay, it happens. But what happens is he pushes my buttons, I push his, or I push his, he pushes mine, and we go back and forth. And all of a sudden, I'm yelling. When I raise my voice and I start to yell, it is over. Nothing will get accomplished. It's a trigger. I know it. It's clear to me. When I raise my voice and I yell, it's over. There is no more communication. Nothing is that matters. I might say something that's important and he might really want to listen to it and it may help us, but when I raise my voice, it's done. But it doesn't mean that I don't raise my voice because I still do. But then I look back and I'm like, well, why didn't he get it? And I'm like, oh, you're yelling. I remember talking to Son and Aaron the other day and actually be on the podcast behind the service. Aaron made the comment, looking back, she wishes that somebody was there pulling her hair to take her out of the situation, knowing what she knows now, that just to step back because now that you look at it, we kind of all look ridiculous, and we kind of realize that. But key is vital in any communication is vital in any relationship. Parent to a child. Your babies just don't come into this world and become perfect adults. They don't learn to pick up their toys. They don't know how to wash dishes. They don't know what kind of behavior you expect if you don't communicate. And you got to be clear. You can't just go into your 2-year-old and say, "I need you to clean up the whole room," and they're like, "Okay." You got to look. Your toys toy box. Your books shelf. Specific has to be. A parent to a student. A teacher to a student. Come on. They're clear. They don't just give you the book and say, "Here, this is what we're going to learn this year. Do whatever you want to out of it. Have a good time." I mean, although I think with homeschooling going on, a lot of parents feel that way, but it's just not book. Have a good time. Um, a coach to a player. And when you're the coach of a team, you specifically tell your players what I want you to do. Um, a commander to his troops. They don't just give everybody these things and say, "Look, the enemy might be dressed in this. Just go shoot anything." Or just go. No, they're very clear on what their objective is. Oh, and take anything you want to. They have clear objectives. And y'all, our veterans are used to clear objectives. Clear objectives. A boss to an employee. As an employee, I don't know what the heck my boss wants unless they tell me. Now not going there. That's the whole thing. Carl and I own another business together, so I work for him. So that's interesting. All right, so we have to learn to communicate in a way that's beneficial to all of us, both of us, not just me, not just him, not just. It's got to be beneficial. At the end of the day, we both want to be heard. That's why arguments and disagreements may start off in this tone. Well, I don't like it when you do. I don't like it. I'm like, nah, nah. And then it's me going, well, nah, 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 and it gets louder and louder and louder and louder and louder because we think that the louder we talk, the more they're going to hear us. In my case, it doesn't work. The louder I talk, the less he hears. So we both want to be heard. We both want the other one to listen. Now, I can't tell you how many times my children, Carl, my mother, how many times they have just talked about stuff. I'm like, okay, here we go again. They're venting. We can't fix it. They're venting. They want us just to listen, not to fix, to listen. They get all this trapped up here. We have all this trapped up here. We just want somebody to listen. I call my friends, and two of them are right here on this thing, and I'm like, ah, and all I want them to do is listen. They can't fix it, but it helps if they listen. Um, Neither one wants to be yelled at or verbally abused. Y'all, that's just the truth. It's the way it is. Nobody wants to be yelled at, and yelling tends to become ugly, and that tends to become verbal abuse, and nobody wants it. So, I've heard and I've watched and I've seen and I've even thought it when he starts screaming at me. Um, I feel abused sometimes. Well, I think we all do. It's just kind of in there with us. But then I realize when I'm yelling back, am I doing the same to him? When I scream back at him, well, you're just a dumbass, or you don't get this, or what? Am I verbally abusing him? So it's easy for me to think, I don't have this is verbal abuse. So am I doing the same thing by yelling back when I push the buttons? And we all know what buttons to push. We all know what their Achilles heel is. And when we're really getting into it, we all push that button. It's just something we do. So when we do it and we're yelling at it and we bring it up and we're not constructive about it, are we abusing them too? So take a step back, kind of look. I do not condone abuse of any kind, verbal or physical. But are we doing it in the verbal aspect too by telling them, well, you're dumb and you're stupid, you're worthless, you won't get your lazy ass up off the couch and you won't do this? Are we doing that to them too? Think about that just a little bit. And we both want to be respected. You know, we can say, well, it's not about me. And Carlos famous for saying, it's not about me, it's all about you. You're my princess. And I love him for that. But at the end of the day, it's about him. And when I'm wrapped up in me and I have some stuff going on personally, health wise, and I'm very wrapped up in me right now, and it doesn't work because I'm so wrapped up in me that I forget to think about how is he feeling about the health road I'm fixing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to, and literally I exploded and been feeling this way for days. And yesterday morning, by the grace of God, we watched I Still Believe. Um, Great movie. But when it showed both sides of the coin, it showed how he felt watching her be sick and how she felt knowing what she did to him. And we were just watching it, wasn't paying much attention to it. And next thing I know, Carl comes walking into the living room with paper towels, and both of us are just like sobbing. Y'all, he's gonna kill me for doing this. But anyway, we're like sobbing. And all of a sudden, all those words we couldn't speak to each other about what was going on all came out. I saw it from his perspective. He saw it from my perspective. So I think sometimes we need to be respected and but they do too. And I wasn't being very respectful of his feelings when you're going through all this stuff and how is he gonna feel? This is how I feel it was about me, but it wasn't about him and his feelings. That's a big deal. All right, so communication can be challenging. When one of you has PTSD, or in our case, both of us have PTSD, you don't want to trigger them. So in the past, you've avoided having conversations because there's a possibility of setting them up. How many times have you said, I'm going to deal with this today, or am I not because I just don't want to? Hmm, I'll leave it alone. It's really bothering me, but I'll leave it alone. And so when you leave it alone because you don't want to trigger them, then your anger and your frustration just builds up more and more and more. And then all these little things add up and they just become a bomb and you explode at that point. So you have to learn to not do this. So we're going to start with the basics. The basics are simple. First of all, be positive. Your positive attitude will change your life. Gonna have bad days? Yes. Are you gonna have bad moments? Yes. Are you gonna have bad weeks? Probably. But the way you feel about going into them, your positive attitude can change everything. All right, this is a hard one for me. You have to listen to your partner. This is where we're starting. We're grounding here. It's time to turn our life around. Where are we going so we don't fall into those pitfalls of the how relationships end? You have to listen. And I'm just telling you from a guy's perspective, they don't necessarily come out and dump all their feelings on the floor. I tended to dump all my feelings on the floor. Um, Carl's way of coping is as he puts it, he has boxes and he puts all the stuff in a box. If you see my office and you see where I work in the living room, because I migrate, there are piles everywhere. I can find what I want in them. I know where it is, but I just tend to dump everything out and let's go through it and address it that way. He doesn't. He's very concise about what he does. So you have to learn to listen to what they're saying. Listen to them because they may not dump it all out. You may get in little pieces. You may get kind of off today. Why y'all? They may not get into that. They go on further down the day, and I'm just sick of this. And I know for us lately, it's been I'm sick of commercials. So I actually got Hulu without ads, and then come to find out, some of the channels that are dropped down from the network still have ads in them. And he's like, I'm just tired of the ads. They're invading my space. They're driving me crazy. I don't like these ads. All those little things just added up to him. So didn't get it on day 1 and 2. He was talking about it. It was like day 3 when I realized they were an invasion to his space and they were setting him off. So it was little things. So you have to learn to listen to their little things. Their little things make the big things. Hear them correctly. Um, and again, I can only speak from my personal experience. So Carl will be like, um, when we kind of say things, he's like, well, you're doing this, and I've been telling you, and I sit back and I watch, and you're doing that, and you're doing that. And so it came across to me like he was just, I couldn't do anything right. It was like this verbal attack to me. And I was just totally taking it the wrong way. When I finally sat down calm and said, when we weren't, button, hey, but when you say this, I feel like you're attacking me. He said, but I'm not. I'm telling you that you're strong and you're amazing, but you are stressing yourself out or doing too much by doing this, this, this. And I said, but that's not what you're saying. And he says, but it is. You're not hearing me. Oh, cool beans. So you have to hear them correctly. Um, you know, a lot of that came from what I felt like his tone, and a lot of it came from my past experiences and my own baggage. You got to make sure you're doing that. Again, this is going to go back to be aware of their mood and what they're feeling. Remember, I told you he gives it to me in little bits. It's super important that you're aware of their mood when they go to communicate, um, and what they're feeling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of stop this here so we can absorb what we're doing. This is a week long thing on communication, but I don't want to overload y'all. Just like I keep saying, let's don't go bombard people. So I don't want to overload anybody. I want us to reflect on it. Please share your feedback. If you don't do it on the comments on the live, you are so welcome to message us or do it there. Again, it will be in our group as well momentarily. A website, and um, hopefully by the middle of this week, we'll be posting all this stuff to YouTube. It's a learning curve for me, but there'll be so many other media platforms. With that, I want everybody to have a good day. I kind of want to tell you what's going on with us and some of our partners. First of all, I cannot sing the praises enough of Behind the Service podcast. They are 3 amazing women who are truly some of my strongest support structure, and they truly care about their veterans and this community, and they are so passionate about the whole package: veterans, the community that which we're living in, those of us as spouses and partners, and making the journey easier. They do amazing podcasts. Last week, their husbands opened up about 9/11 and how it affected them. This week, Loving My Veteran is truly honored to be the guest on their podcast. I just don't think we're deserving of that, but okay, these people are amazing and we love them. So please go to their website and to their Facebook pages. Their support group is amazing. It's Behind the Service is their Facebook page, and Behind the Service podcast is their group. I think that's right. I'm members of both, so Shannon, tell me if I'm wrong. Shannon, tell me if I'm wrong because it's important. And momentarily, It will finish popping up on our website, and we will really be promoting it here every Monday. We are doing a veteran spotlight, and this week's veteran spotlight is retired U.S. Army Captain Tyler Merritt, and I'm probably going to cry. Tyler Merritt and his brother and Tyler's wife Ashley, a few years ago, 2012 actually, formed a patriotic T-shirt startup company in their garage. They love this country. They love what it stood for. Tyler is a decorated veteran. But what he has done beyond that, out of the service, has been truly the most amazing. Um, he founded and opened Nine Line Apparel. I think everything in my closet is Nine Line just because I love their mission and love what they stand for. They support veterans. They support constitutional rights, our gun rights, and first responders. So, it just obviously fit it to the love of my heart. But more than that, they always give back. So Tyler and them found the needs and the voids, and they had a friend of Tyler's lost some limbs in Afghanistan and needed three of them to be exact, and needed a home retrofitted for them. And Nine Line took the proceeds of the t-shirt sales and went out and built this man a home. And they've been doing it one veteran at a time. They formed the Nine Line Foundation, which is total non for profit. All of the people who do that project are volunteer. And they've done so many projects for veterans. And it's been one at a time as they've fulfilled their total needs. And I know I've talked about it before, coming from Savannah and seeing the number of homeless veterans on the street. Tyler and the Nine Line Foundation decided that there were too many, and they built Veterans Village. They're on their second one now. The first one's in Savannah, Georgia. The next one is being built in Brunswick, Georgia. They are tiny houses, and they're bringing the homeless veterans there, and they are giving them skills, and they have partnered with local colleges and technical support to give them vocational skills, and they're not handing out to them, they are helping them up. Um, and these were all self-sufficient and self-sustained, and by the end of being off the street and getting your life together and learning a skill and having the resources available to you, you're going to go out in this world and just know that you're loved and appreciated. So the Nine Line Foundation, Nine Line Apparel, they will be on our website. I'm obviously just a minute fixing to post them to the page here. Please love and support these people. Um, there's so much that we can do for our veterans, and they have taken it completely upon themselves to touch one veteran at a time. And I believe, if I'm correct, the Savannah one has 77 tiny houses, and the one in Brunswick they're currently working on is about 20, and it will expand. And their goal is to put them everywhere. So, because of the Nine Line Foundation and Tyler and his brother, who is also a retired military, the major, um, and their friends from the service, there are 77 veterans in Savannah, Georgia that are not sleeping on the street. Please go bless them as well. Tell them we said hi. Y'all have a great day. There's much more coming. There's a calendar of events. We'll be posting our week-long calendar of events. Just remember, to us, you're always a name. You're not a number. We love you. We appreciate you. And I will see you tomorrow.